And although people don't know about you in this very moment, the world would know soon. That's how you have to look at it. That's how I look at it on certain things. Like, it's cool, okay, but just keep going. Eventually, it's gonna happen.
That's all.
You just have to keep going, and it has to be within to know, like, in a humble way.
All right, aside from the other conversations, my boy, what's up? Happy Friday.
Brother, what's the word, bro?
Can we just talk about how clean this man's looking right now? Like, let's go top to bottom. He's rocking the short sleeve cutoff shirt with the, looks like a grayish tone. No, I'm just saying, bro. You look good. You like the new haircut that you got.
Oh, man. Had to get back to the traditional look. Sometimes it's good to switch it up, but
it's giving Jalen Hurts vibes.
You're the real Jalen Hurts.
No, man, that's all love for sure. You look good, bro.
Love, bro.
It's good to see you again. We're out here recording, guys, and as you can see, we're in a new setup right now. So we have, to give you a little description, we got 2 cameras running. We got one that I'm looking at right now. We got one Julian that's facing Julian. And, you know, my biggest thing is always continuing to elevate the brand as much as we can. So
absolutely.
We love you guys. We want to make sure that we're making it, you know, better, making it more inspiring. And, you know, this is the way that we're going. So we're going to test this out for a few weeks, see how it does. But with that being said, Julian, we have some cool things to talk about today.
Hey, let's get to it, bro.
We're going to step aside from the athletic talk. So the athletes that are here, I still think you guys could definitely join in. You know what I'm saying? But I think today I want to focus on a little bit more of like a friendlier, you know, more open mic type of discussion. So remember the hot takes we used to do last?
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
are fun, man.
Absolutely.
Those are fun. And we got Deshaun in the building. Deshaun, he's editing, doing his thing right now. Can't see you, bro. But yeah, man, we're just gonna go through some questions. Today's segments are really around the lines of the let them, or if he wanted to, he will, or she wanted to, she will mentality. So today we're going to be focusing on those types of trending sayings. But first off, I want to know like your opinion, man. Like, what do you think of all this like social talk and conversations that goes on between people? Like, how do you think that plays an impact in just how we interact with each other on a day-to-day basis?
Well, for one, I think it's just very telling on how easily influenced somebody is.
Yeah.
If they start to take on these different monikers or trendy ways of speaking. I would say that more than anything.
Yeah.
I think it's just very telling on where somebody's intellectual prowess is when you hear them spewing the same things that are and same sentiments that are on all these different social platforms. So more so than the actual trendiness of what's being said, I think it's, and I don't want, maybe not use the word indictment, but it is very foretelling of where somebody's mental capacity is in regards to just if they're individual or if they participate in groupthink. So
yeah, I think it's a clear understanding of who's basing their own principles and their decisions off of like what they're hearing, what they're seeing, what they're reading, compared to the ones that are just like, oh, I heard that, it sounded good, so I'm gonna use it. You know what I mean? So like today specifically into talking about like if they wanted to, they could. Because here's the thing that we always talk about, right? Like when we're on the BHD podcast, we're always talking about how we can be accountable for our things and our doings. Like we're not putting blame on women. We're not putting blame on men. We're speaking from a place of experiences and understanding like how we work, how we move as people. So, you know, I'm going to put them as our main category today, like we do with anything, because it applies between people itself. I think there's a big people issue going on in society right now, specifically in how we communicate. And I think the coolest times before we get into these questions are when we step out, right? When we go to like these fun events that we participate in from time to time on the weekends, and we just see how different people interact with each other. And some of them are really cool, right? We catch the really cool moments, and then others were like, man, that communication style is so different, man. And I think there's a gap between how us men and women talk to each other, and on both ends, it can be kind of a turnoff when you're trying to, again, be in a public setting where you should be networking and talking to people, and you peep something, you're like,
for sure.
I don't know, you know? So what are your thoughts on that? Like how is like social interaction and how you, when you're outside and you see people and a mass amount of people go about certain things?
Yeah, I think just to be forthright about it, I think it's changing drastically.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a drastic change, and we have a lot of conversations off camera about things that we see, but I think there's a real shift that's happening in regards to how people are communicating, to how people are also receptive to different levels of communication just from a very impersonal, interactions. And the reality is we're like before all of these different platforms and just social constructs or social media constructs, you had to be outside and meet people. It was only being able to communicate through being around people, through going out. That was the only way. And so to see all these different these different things that are partaking due to, truthfully due to social media, it's just there's a shift that's happening. There's a real shift that's happening. So
would you say a big part of that plays into the amount of access that people have to each other on their everyday basis?
Absolutely, man. It's the access. And I also think it's a lack of, it stems. Well, I'll say this: we're not from the generation of social media, so we know how it feels to play outside, play sports outside. You see a whole bunch of bikes at a house, everybody's at that house. You see a whole bunch of people at the park, that's where people are. Like, there's certain things and interactions that we had. I think the further we get away from that, the further people are getting away from having real interactions, from growing up outside. That carries to how you are in your adulthood. There's certain things that you have to learn from just being outside, from coming in contact with other kids and other people from different neighborhoods, different environments.
Yeah.
Just from being outside and learning how to communicate, learning how to assess situations, learning how to speak to people from a young age. We're getting away from that. So now generations are getting further away from communicating outside to communicating via on their phone or through gaming systems. That does something to the level of like communication style that's needed. There's a certain level of like needing to know how to communicate to people that I think is getting lost. And now we're starting to see the trickle effect of that. And it's a drastic change, man. It's a drastic change.
I agree, bro. I think we've used it as a crutch in a sense of relying on it to communicate as much as possible, and relying like that is the most consistent and validating way to communicate is over social media or overall over texting in general. You know what I'm saying? So I do think it can be different. I think the impact is, again, how we show up and talking to each other. I think my biggest challenge when I'm talking to someone is, I do this for my day-to-day. Like I do this outside for my brand. So I have to be concrete when it comes to, if it wasn't for us meeting once a week and sitting in front of each other and having conversation, I could be playing the same game that a lot of these people are playing because I don't know how many people are interacting with each other outside, especially if they work from home. And it shows when you're talking to a woman or you're talking to another dude and you're listening to them talk and you're like, I feel like there's so much more of a gap when it comes to articulating what you actually feel and how you feel about it, and even expressing emotions that you really can't get out when all you're doing is doom scrolling or posting everything that you're doing. Like, you can't even understand or comprehend what you're living other than just sharing it on social media. And I think one big takeaway that I find and that I tell people when they're like, well, you're always posting. And it's like, I post what I want you to see. My content is all based around what I want you guys to see. Like, there are things that I strictly won't post because it's me time. And we've had that conversation. And again, I'll stop being long-winded so we can get the questions. Bro, But it's the shower moments where, these content creators, they start off by their cooking, right? The cooking turns into, okay, here's my reading, like the book that I'm reading right now. Here's what it's about. And they're showing them reading. And it goes into the bedtime. Oh, here's how I get ready for bed. And then it goes into the shower. How did we get from cooking to now we're looking at you shower and you're washing your face? You don't get any personal time to yourself. And I've even seen some videos, which it's not a knock. I'm just saying the prayer life, like recording your prayer life, how much of that is genuine, right? Like there's certain things that are supposed to be intimate, that are supposed to be private. And I question if the amount of focus and the amount of love and attention goes into that, or is it going that, did I get that angle? Because I know when I'm at the gym and I'm recording, I'm not thinking about the lift. I'm thinking about, is the camera in someone's way? Am I getting the right angle? Am I making sure, like, I'm thinking on top of trying to lift the weight. So with all that being said, bro, I think there's just a lot of stuff going in through our heads already that people can't slow down and just communicate with each other and how they feel. So if you have to over-explain your life, are they really your friend?
That's a good question. I do believe there's a form of there's a degree of depth that might need to be spoken about during times, because, and again, I'm reading a book called Super Communicators, and it's a really good book. But one thing in the book that it talks about, no, actually, I'm sorry, it was in the Four Agreements, the book of Four Agreements. It speaks about not assuming. So no matter who, if it's a friend or not, there are certain things that might be nuanced to whereas even though if that is a friend, there shouldn't be room for somebody to have to assume. But that is also based on the depth of that friendship. Yeah. And that's where that level of communication comes into to where it's like, hey, I'm peeping this or I'm seeing this. What's this about? Because I don't want to assume what this might be. So let me get some depth on it. That's not having to over-explain it. That's seeking the truth.
Right.
Because when people assume, now they can construct certain things in their mind and start to like question or start to like, there's no need for that. So the best thing to do is to ask questions. So I would say it's very nuanced, but I wouldn't say if a friend has to like over communicate or something like that, it's questioning the friendship. No, it's nuanced.
That's a good answer. You know, I'm going to give my take. I'm going to read the question again so that way we have like a basis of it. If you have to over explain your life, are they really your friend? I think there's a certain level of boundaries that need to be placed in friendships, right? And I think, you know, and I want to make this comment very clear. I think any type of relationship needs to be formed off of friendship first.
Absolutely.
I think that's the only way to have a healthy friendship, a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage is if both y'all are friends. And with that being said, I do think there are times where people may hold things back based off of the understanding as a friend of not wanting their friends to worry or stress or take up capacity. And I think when it's coming from that place, it's love. That's a true meaning of love, and that's my opinion on it. But I also think on the flip side of it, when, you know, maybe a certain information that's withheld also comes from a place of isolation and just trauma. You know, a lot of people, when they go through things, they want to handle it on their own. And as much as that's okay at a certain point, it's kind of contradicting when you want a community, right? I want these friends. I want a relationship. I think at some point you got to learn on how to let people in. Because if you're not letting people in, we got a bunch of stuff going on right now. Sure. But if you're not letting people in, right, and you want a community, you want friendship, I question if that's really what you want, because you keep choosing to, I have this, but I'm going to run this way. And the friend that told you, like, yo, I'm here for you, what you go through is a little bit a part of me, but I want to make sure that I can be here for you. And they made sure that they shown you that. I question, why not do that? And so it gets kind of tricky, right? Like, it depends on the situation. What do you think?
Yeah. Man, it is. It's very nuanced. But I think there are certain things that, you know, in times in life, you want to hold it to close to you. You want to hold it to your chest. So that's very understandable. But I think there are certain times to where even if one doesn't express, let's say it's a friendship and somebody's reaching out, having understanding of a friend on both ends would be like this. Hey, I'm going through something, or I'm trying to figure some stuff out. I'll get back at you in a week, or when I clear my mind. Because usually if somebody's a real friend and it's love, they're just checking on you to see that you're good. They don't necessarily need to know what might be going on, because there's really no need to pry. Right. Within friendship, it's like there's always that level of open door communication that can be there. But sometimes it's just a matter of, man, I'm just checking on you. Yeah. Whether you feel like you need to express whatever you need to or not, that's on you. But just I'm letting you know I'm here for you. So, man, it's all good if you don't want to explain it. I was just calling or just texting you just to see if you're good. If you want to hit me back in a week, 2 weeks, whatever, it's all good. I'm just tapping in with you to let you know I'm here and I love you. I care about you, whatever it is. So sometimes that's just what it's about. Now, whether somebody wants to like express or certain things, that's up to that person. Because it's not about prying. I think it's just more so about that person knowing like, man, I'm here for you. It's love behind this. So it's knowing also the type of person. It's just like sports. It's knowing personnel. You know what type of friend this is. Oh, when they get like this, they're going through something. When they get like that, okay, and that's knowing, but that comes through depth. Yeah. So that's why I say it's very nuanced, because it's different based on everybody that's within a friend group or just different personalities. It's not just like a one-size-fits-all. It's knowing individually who people are.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's knowing that it's all coming from a loving place,
that's
right?
It.
Like,
that's it.
I think it's okay to go through that, but I think the only challenge that could come with it is if they decide to start isolating the friendship.
Absolutely.
You reach out, they don't text back. Hey, yo, let's do this. hey, we've been doing this every Wednesday. They haven't hit you in 2 weeks. They haven't seen you in 2 weeks. And then a month comes by and they're like, yo, bro, my bad. I was just handling some things. I was going through it.
That's different.
I think, no, for sure. And I think the way you explained
you're ignoring somebody at that point.
Exactly. And I think some people might see what you just said to what I just explained on what the extreme of that could look like as the same thing. And I think the main concept is it's not, right?
They don't conflict. They're two different things.
Because it's hurting the friendship at that point. Not withholding information from a friend, it doesn't hurt the friendship. Like sharing what is of comfortable to share with them.
That's it.
That's fine. Like that's cool. But like if it's, again, we're getting distant. We're doing things that we've been doing the last year and you're not coming around. I think that's the area where you got to be like, okay, look, I'm going to tell you this. I don't know how it's going to land, but I'm not feeling it. And we got to figure out how we can get out of it.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
All right. So the next question, if people disappear when you stop trying, did you lose them or learn them?
Now that right there, that could be a blend. It could be a blend with that.
What do you think?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose people. Sometimes you figure them out and they don't like that. So it's you know what I mean? And that's why I say it's a blend. You know what I mean? And you might be able to figure that out. You might not be able to. But you know, I think in situations like that, the only thing you can rest in is it's not as thorough as you might have expected it to be. It's not as solid as you expected it to be. Because at no point in time, if we're talking about real friendship, at no point in time should somebody just be removing themselves from you, no matter what. What they choose to explain or the different points that they feel to communicate when they feel that, that's one thing. When people just start distancing themselves or blatantly ignoring you, that's out of pocket. We're talking about real friendship, that's out of pocket. You don't ignore your brothers. You don't do stuff like that. So, again, it could be a blend, but I would just say the umbrella is, this is not as thorough as I thought it was.
That's a great answer, bro. I love that. I'm going to say the question again. If people disappear when you stop trying, did you lose them or learn them? I think it's both. Yeah. I hate to say it, but like
it's situational.
Yeah, bro. I think it's definitely both. I think this also plays in a part in relationships too, right? When you spend enough time with somebody and you think that you know them, like I don't think we'll ever fully know somebody to that capacity, right? Sure. Anything can happen. But I think regardless if you lose them, you're still learning. You learned a lesson, right? Like friendship, relationship, you still learn from it. I think a lot of times, I mean, us as guys come from a victimized place, which I've been there. Like I've done that with certain friendships and relationships. Like they left and I'm like, oh, like they lost me or I lost them. That type of battle, right? Which is the same thing. It's just in a different perspective. I think I learned from that perspective is a growth aspect for them. So that way I know that I did everything I could, or I know that there was more that could have happened on my end to where I just grow from it. I learn from it. So I would kind of lean a little bit more towards the learning side, but I do know that people take things personal, right? And that's it too. You and I always talk about like nothing's ever personal in life, regardless of what it is. Like people go through hurts, habits, and hangups, and they take it out as they think it should be taken out. Sure. But I don't think anything's personal, man. I don't think a lot of things are. I think there are bad people out there for sure. But I think the intentionality behind something like that, in this case, somebody leaving somebody or just ghosting them as a friendship, half the time it's not even personal. It's mostly because they have stuff going on that they just, again, get back to the first question of can't talk about it with somebody that they don't think they can trust.
Absolutely. It's projecting. I will say certain things are personal. You know what I mean? Certain things are.
Yeah.
But certain things are. I think a lot of times it's best not to look at things like it is personal. But some things are an indictment on that's personal. You know what I mean? But
especially if they make it clear, right?
Absolutely.
They tell you.
You know what I mean? So that is also very situational too. But I do also think that in anything, when usually people project based on how they're feeling.
Yep.
And I say, when you have real, thorough, solid friendships, or even look at like a parent could be going through a lot of different things in life, but that doesn't stop you from parenting your child. Like if you're sad, if you're happy, if you're whatever you're going through, you're still supposed to parent your child. So if it's based on projecting, a parent that's not feeling good stops parenting their child.
Yeah.
When that parent feels happy, then they start to parent their child. If we mirror that for friendship, it's like, no, it's not supposed to be that way because that wouldn't be conducive of a good parent. So that wouldn't be conducive of a good friendship to whereas I only hear from you when you're feeling good, or I stop hearing from you when you're feeling bad, or when you're feeling good, I hear from you for these amount of days, or when you don't feel good, you're ignoring me. It's blatant. I don't hear from you. You reach out when you feel like it. That's not how friendship goes. Like real tight friendships are when you can be like, man, we've been through a lot together, because there's ups and downs in life. So if I'm going through something, my boy's gonna hear from me.
Yeah.
If I'm happy, my boy's gonna hear from me. Mm-hmm. And again, it's very dependent on what it is and how you choose to explain whatever you have going on in your life. But if that's your brother, we talking about real friendships. If that's your brother, it doesn't matter what you're going through. You're still supposed to be in communication with your brother. Now it's up to you for what you want to express and how you want to go about it and the depths of that. That's dependent on how deep the relationship is, how close the bond is. But it's not supposed to be contingent based on when I feel good, I'll hit my boy, or when I'm not feeling good, I'm gonna play the backfield. Nah, that's not thorough.
Right.
That's not a thorough brotherhood.
Yeah.
So most times people are projecting based off how they feel. That's why we're not supposed to take it personally. Because if you know you didn't do anything wrong, it's just like, well, that person's projecting based on their feelings. It has nothing to do with you or what you have going on. It's just they feel good, so they're talking to you. They don't feel good, so you don't hear from them. And in any situation, we're not supposed to take it personal, but it still kind of could feel that way, truthfully. But with the understanding of that is most people just project. Yeah. That's just a reality of life. Most people project based on how they feel. But when people are thorough, there's no blend. It's like, man, you're going to hear from me. Regardless of what's going on, my brother's going to hear from me. So it's where somebody is in life from a mental standpoint.
I like that, man. Yeah, for sure. Switching gears a little bit. This one's a little heavy. Do you think women will ever understand men? And do you think men will ever understand women?
I'll say this. I think we have, as men, we have to do our best to understand women.
Yeah.
When it's reversed, I don't think that's the case. They don't genuinely have to get to know who we are. They should. It makes sense for both of us to be able to know get to know each other. But, and again, I'm not going to get that much in depth to it.
Bro. Speak your piece.
But I do think that there is a difference.
Right.
There is a difference. I think, and I'll say this, I think good people, a good man, a good woman, aims to get to know the opposite sex.
Absolutely.
Simple as that. Now, whether that's the reality most of the time, that's another conversation. But again, a good man and a good woman is going to aim to get to know the counterpart. So I'll leave it at that. I think it's really just a personal thing, whether or not somebody wants to do that. But again, like I said, generally speaking, I don't know if that's the case. You know what I mean? But I think that with maturity, one should have the want to know the opposite sex.
To add on to what you said about, I think good people want to understand or want to do their best to try to understand others. I think there's never going to be a time where we fully understand women.
For sure. For sure.
You know, we're not women,
for sure,
right?
Absolutely.
And I heard this podcast of this woman talking about how, a man can try so hard to understand a woman, but he's not a woman. When we have women problems, we usually go to women, which I'm like, that's true. Like if she has friends, right? Like she's going to go to her woman about her best friend. But I think the intention of us wanting to try is what counts. I think I could speak for a woman in the sense of if a guy is trying their best, right? And not half-assing it, like actually trying their best to understand his woman or a woman he's trying to get to know, I think that speaks volumes, right? Because we're taking aside time to put away our things in our life to make a priority of someone to understand what they're going through, what their situation is, and truly like who they are as people. Do I think we get it right all the time? No, I don't. Honestly, I don't. I think we crash and burn in lots of areas, but I think the willingness to keep trying is what separates a good man from a man that just plays into the majority of what women don't think good guys are. And I would say the same thing for women. I think a genuinely good woman wants to get to know their man.
Absolutely.
And I think when those times come where there's a misunderstanding, it's not aligned with arguing or yelling at each other. It's aligned with like, I'm sorry, like I thought it was this, but it really wasn't, I'll do better. Absolutely. I think those words and communication, bro, can go a long way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't handle it that way. I think, in all age groups, regardless of what type of friend you're looking at, what type of romantic relationship you're looking at, we have a tendency of getting hurt when we are misunderstood, and then we bark back. And then the other person who was on the other side of, oh, well, I thought I was understanding you, gets in defense mode and has to bark back with them, and you're just barking at each other. So I think it really comes down to just being vulnerable and be like, man, as a guy, I'm misunderstood. Like I completely missed the mark on that, but I'm gonna try to do better and understand where that came from.
And I would say this, man, because I'm thinking about things while you're speaking and listening to you. The journey of a man is vastly different. Like it's just a vastly different journey,
for sure.
So, and I can't speak to the journey of womanhood because again, we're not women. But I will say the journey of we'll say a boy going to an adolescent and then stepping into the everlasting journey of manhood. It's a totally different spectrum. So whereas, truthfully, I can't expect a woman to understand that. Sure. But what I will say is appreciation should be there.
Yeah.
So while I wouldn't necessarily expect a woman to understand, I think there should be a certain level of appreciation for when you see a man operating in his manhood, there should be appreciation for it, because although a woman is not going to be able to understand what goes behind that in regards to that journey, and in regards to what it takes and the well, I'll just be very honest, that lonely road, and I'm not saying lonely in a bad way, I'm just saying that lonely road and that self journey to manhood, a woman's not going to be able to understand that. I will say this, I'd be more frustrated with a man that doesn't understand that, because I'll use this example. Let's say for example, we're on a yacht, right?
Yeah.
It's us. We're on a yacht and there's other guys, and you got the yacht, right? As a man, the level of proudness I would have for you, it's going to be totally different, because I know what it takes for you to even get this yacht, for you to be able to book this yacht, for you to be able to have all these different things behind it. It's a totally different understanding of when I shake your hand and embrace you and hug you, and I'm saying I'm proud of you. It's from a direct understanding of I know what it takes and the struggles to even obtain this, or to get this, or to have this lifestyle, or work towards it. Like it came from suffering and heartache and trying to figure things out and struggle, and then still persevering. So the embrace from that is going to be totally different, because there's an understanding. That's why I say I'd be more frustrated from another man not understanding, because you should know, well, if you're on the path of manhood, you should know, when you see men obtain certain things, how difficult it is. And when it is obtained, there should be a certain level of just being proud and happy that you should be, because he had to really grind. Unless he was handed that, he had to really grind and suffer for that. I can't expect a woman to understand that. That's not their journey, and rightfully so. Yeah. That's not the way God intended it. Our journeys are totally different. We learn from pain, or we're supposed to learn from pain and suffering and heartache and going through the fire and being molded from that. Again, I can't speak for women, but that's not their journey. So that's why I say I'd be more frustrated with another man not understanding that. I can't necessarily be frustrated with a woman for not understanding the plight of manhood. That's why I say appreciation should come into play, to where it's although I don't understand what you've gone through to obtain this, I appreciate you. I'm proud of you. I'm thankful. You know what I mean? There's something else that I would expect from that. So again, yes, we should aim to know each other the best way we can, but our journeys are different. So we can empathize. I can empathize, but for men, I have understanding, 100% understanding. For certain things that women go through, I can only empathize with it because I'm not a woman. And empathizing is a form of care.
Yeah.
But to know is something totally different. And that's why I say I'd be more frustrated with a man that doesn't understand, because it's bro, you're supposed to be on this path. If you are on the path of manhood, you should know really what comes behind this. I can't expect that in another situation.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with that. I think men and women have differences in like the values of, let's say, concrete things, right? Concrete items and where that comes from. I guess I meant more understanding in common practices or things that happen in everyday life. So like when a man gets hurt to a woman gets hurt, doesn't matter what it is. I think there's still a level of understanding that can be, it won't be the same, obviously, like you said, because the evolution of it, it's never going to be the same. But like the understanding part can be pretty mutual on that side. It's like if you just have maybe the same conflict of a man getting hurt and a woman getting hurt, it's gonna be two different emotions, but for both of them, let's say they're friends or they're in a relationship, for them to understand where they came from in that moment, I feel like there has to be a certain level of understanding, or else that's not a friendship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I have women friends, you've had women friends before. I may not agree with it, but I understand how maybe a woman friend got to that point. And it's like, look, I don't agree with it, but I understand how you got there. Because at the end of the day, regardless of why she chose to do that or why I chose to do it, you can level with it in a certain aspect. Now, what I think you're saying, I agree with it, because when a dude to another dude gets something as big as that, I don't expect my woman to pull from an analytical standpoint of like, man, he did this, I saw him at this, and do it all the way over here, because I want them to be in a nurturing place. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want my woman to be like, again, the empathy or the love of like, hey, honey, like, I'm glad you did it, or like, dude, I'm happy for you. Whereas a guy friend, I would, like you said, the way you would show up. I think both sides are needed for sure in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where the roles play the biggest part. Absolutely. But I think the understanding especially happens more, and I would like to see it done, or I could think it could be done, is when it's in that level of similar conflicts or like similar things that dudes struggle with to the things that women struggle with when it comes to like arguing, not having what they're saying seen. You know, when a guy doesn't have his point seen from a certain point of view, or a woman doesn't have their certain point from their point of view, I feel like that understanding is the biggest one that I guess I was listening to, or I was watching. And all in all, I think the role you have to play is huge, but I think understanding for sure has to be at a certain limit for it to go further than that.
Yeah. I think it really just, it boils, at least for me, it boils down to like individual mindset in regards to, are you seeking to like want to get to know this person and what they're going through? Like, cause I mean, we could just be in the mind frame of just thinking like how men think 24/7. We could be in that mind frame, but the reality is like when dealing and operating with a woman, like it's a totally different mindset. Yeah. So like you should have the willpower to like want to empathize or try to figure out like, okay, what's making her think like that? Or what's garnishing the emotion to make her operate like that? Sure. That's if you want to maneuver in a correct way or get the best out of a situation. Because you could just be hard body 24/7 and be under the male frame. And it's like, there's spaces for that, for sure. But you should want to have duality in a sense of like getting to understand that other side. So I would agree. I think, but again, that's just from an internal space. Some people just stay in that one frame, and it's like, okay, I dig it, I get it, but it's like, it's nuances again. There's spaces for that. You don't have to be in that 24/7, especially when you have a woman or you're dealing with women. Like, there's no need to be in it because, again, there's not going to be an understanding for you being like that 24/7. Yeah. So again, it's very nuanced, and that's why I say it's a very personal, individual mindset that somebody has to take, man or woman, to be able to empathize with the opposite sex and be like, okay, just try to figure them out for who they are. It's a very internal thing. So everybody's not like that. Some people are. It just depends on who that individual is.
That's true. I'll end with this. I think there are times and places to be that, like you said, it's not cold-hearted, but it's that sternness, to have that sternness. Sure. And I think there are women and men, right? I think there are men out there that are a lot softer than other men. For sure. Softer, I mean, in a positive way. No, like, for sure. They have a sense of understanding more emotions. They have a sense of patience. They have a sense of knowing more or less of how to gauge certain things from like a softness, or they have this very like softness about them. Whereas other dudes are just a little bit more tougher skin, right? They communicate, but it's with intent. It's with, a level of emotion and passion that can be seen as yelling or as something negative. And the same thing for women. I think there are women out there, and I'm not saying they're good or bad. Like, I'm not saying that one's worse, one's better. What I'm saying is this is what I've experienced. Yeah. I've met women just as much as men who have a sternness, have a level of, I'm gonna just find a way. I'm gonna just make sure it's done. Or they speak with a level of passion that's very like in your face, and it's not bad. It's just how they are. And I've met women who they're the softest thing ever. They have a level of emotion. Like, they are able to feel something when, let's just say you get a promotion, they start crying. Yeah. Not because they're sad, because they feel
they're happy for you.
They're happy for you. So I've met, and you've probably met those types of people around your whole entire life, man. And I think you got to play the role and understand that. And especially when you are in the time of frame where you're trying to get with a woman, right, in a relationship, I can't have the same presence that I have with you with the woman. Absolutely. And that's exactly what you're saying is the way I understand with you and level with you, I can't do that with the woman that I want to be with, because I know I need to show up with the level of vulnerability and softness. So when she does have an issue, and it's not even just with me, it's with anything, you're just like you said, how can I try to understand this right now, and what type of part can I play?
And that's how you get the best result. And that's why I say it's a very individual thing, because everybody, of course, we're not going to generally speak on it, but it's just the nuance is, who is that individual as a person to try to receive what they're looking for based on who they are individually. You're going to get the best out of whatever you're looking for based on how you operate within that. So it's a very individual thing, but I agree.
All right. So we probably have time for maybe try to fit in the second question, but I think this one's going to generate a good conversation too. So do you feel like dudes get the short end of the stick when it comes to friendships and relationships?
Nah, because I don't really look at things from like a victim mentality. I think it's just, again, I don't want to like.
Do you think society?
Well, I'll say this. I think it's. I think there's less compassion for men. I'll say that. I think there's less compassion to whereas there should still be a certain level of at least an attempt of understanding for men that might not be had. But I don't want to say the short end of the stick or this woe is me or woe is man. Nah, none of that, because that's not the vibe. We're men, but I do think that there should be a certain level of compassion, or there should be a certain aim of understanding or empathizing, because again, I'm being very, very methodical in the words that I use, because understanding and compassion are two different. I mean, understanding and empathy are two different things. When you empathize on something that there's really no way that you could have understanding. For example, like I can't understand somebody that's of another race. I can empathize with their plight. Yeah. We've told, like, just certain conversations we've had, I can empathize with certain things that you've told me, because that's not my plight. But and empathy is a form of care. You're showing care by that. And also you have to go through things to empathize. If you've never been through anything, you can't really empathize with somebody. So in empathy, it's, although I've never been through that, and because of this specific nuance and whatever the nuance is, and in a lot of cases is I'll never be able to go through that. For example, I'll never be a woman, so I won't be able to understand certain things women go through, but I can empathize with it based off care. Now, understanding is, if I'm talking to you, if I'm talking to my brother, if I'm talking to like a man, you say something to me, I understand you. I understand what you mean by that. I get what you mean by that. If you tell me something, and it could be another man too, but it could just be a nuanced situation. It's like, man, bro, even though we're men, you're speaking on something, and it could be based on culture. It could be based on language. It could be based on whatever it is. Although I might not be able to understand that, I can empathize with it because there's a care. So I have to be very specific in the words I'm using, because they're just two totally different things. So to empathize and to understand are two different things. I think there should be a certain level of empathy when there's no understanding. And when there's understanding, there should just be understanding. But if we're talking about the opposite sex, men and women, we should aim to empathize. Of course, there should be understanding in certain regards, but when that understanding can't come into play based on we're just two different genders, empathy comes into play. Yeah. And I think that's where that bridge has to be crossed, to where it's like, love, I'll never understand how it feels to be a woman. But although you're telling me these certain things, I care, I'm going to empathize with you. And I even say that, man, I can't understand that, but I empathize with you. And I think people respect that, because if you tell me something about whatever, something culturally, something in the family, like, and you know that there's no way that I'd be able to understand that, I can't be like, hey, Fobs, I understand that. How? We both know that I can't understand that, but I can empathize with it, because the empathy comes from care. The empathy comes from I could try to put myself in that situation, and then it's like, nah, I empathize with that, because I could see. It's almost like attempting to understand, but being like, I can't understand, so I'm going to empathize with it. So, again, it's very, very nuanced, but I just wanted to be very, very particular with my words in that, because there's like, words are powerful. We add meaning to words, but they're powerful. And if we're talking about understanding and empathizing, we can't conflate those two things, because they're two totally different things.
No, and I appreciate you saying that, because I think, well, first and foremost, this is a platform that gets published every week, right? So things can be misconstrued, and regardless if it's not about caring what people think, it's about showing up as a personal brand that you were articulating what you're saying, and it's coming off exactly how you're saying it.
You speak with intent.
Exactly. It's not coming from a place of, oh, well, you can leave it open for assumptions, and that's where you get in trouble with things. So I appreciate you speaking from love and intent with that. And man, like I said, I agree with you. I think we align on a lot of those similarities. I think society does its job by trying to paint a picture that men have the short end of the stick right now, you know? And I think, which is why I validated earlier, is there are certain things that men and women go through that are very similar, right? Problems, let's just say a win and a loss. Men and women go through it. Wake up, we both go through it. So those types of situations, men and women go through similarly or the same way.
Absolutely.
And I think when it comes to the part of men having the short end of the stick, I think it comes from a place of, really, we just have people out here, I don't know if it's men or women that are saying men have the short end of the stick, but people have made an issue become a bigger thing than what it is. And I think the issue is men have gotten hurt so much, right?
Yeah.
Friends, family, mom, dad, leaves kid, mom leaves kid, kids in foster care, to where they experience one relationship, right? Or one friendship, and it doesn't pan out the way they want it. And then they turn cold-hearted. And I think we have those types of people grouped together and form this narrative that men have the short end of the stick, or that, again, from the negative side of men coming from this, like, oh, whoa, it's me type of thing. I don't have anybody. And it's like, nah, man, that's not what it is. Like, it comes back to having a community of dudes.
Absolutely.
Getting together once a week and being able to talk about things like we do. Man, hanging out with you guys for the last couple of years, that's done more for me, respectfully, than therapy has done in a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I respect therapy, bro.
For sure.
Like,
For sure.
I pulled parts out of therapy that I needed to, but there's a certain thing about hanging out with guys. Now, I'm not talking about dudes that you go out with on Saturday and Sunday.
Real
I'm talking about real brotherhood,
brotherhood,
being in the house, putting something together like this, and talking about real things, which is what we do. So this is a form of therapy. And I think the easiest solution to get out of the men have the short end of the stick, we'll just say in life, right? We'll say that. I think that's coming from a place of not having true community. I think that's coming from a place of not having true foundation. And then when you step out to I'm ready to meet a woman, and you meet a woman and she doesn't fulfill every expectation you have, you fall into the, it's a woman's issue.
Pulling
They're
from being a
cold-hearted.
victim.
Exactly. You're pulling from a victim mentality, when in reality, if you just had a couple of dudes just to be like, look, how could you have been better? Or was it the right time for you to start seeking out a woman seriously?
There you go.
When you didn't have this aligned, when you didn't have that aligned. And I think the issue isn't with guys not having friends. I think the issue is with guys not having brotherhood.
Totally different.
It's totally different, bro. So I think one thing that they can do, which we're already at time, but I think one thing a guy can do before we wrap up this episode is to try to find true brotherhood. You know, maybe stop seeking the relationship right now or a woman right now and seek a true guy friend that can level with you, that can understand you.
That's it.
Empathize with you. Not just empathize, but understand you first. So that way you know what it feels like to be understood. And then you can start giving that understanding to a woman.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So before we clock out today, bro, I appreciate this conversation with
bro.
you. I want to.
No, as always, bro. You finished it out on that one. That's it. That's it.
I need one take from you looking at the camera and just giving just one smooth tip for these guys based off what we talked about to continue to keep doing or to start doing.
For sure. Well, I'll just leave it at this, and I'll be short and concise. You're never a victim, and you're a warrior. Always remember that. Watch the movie 300. That's my favorite movie, and I'm saying that it might seem very casually, but I'm saying that honestly because if you watch that movie, any man that watches that movie, you should feel inspired. Yeah, you should feel inspired, and there's so many different